Welcome to this panel discussion with stemettes, hosted by me, Anne-Marie, head stemet. Now, stemettes was something that I started back in 2013 to address the underrepresentation of women working across STEM being science, technology, engineering, and maths. And since then, we've reached more than 45,000 young people across the UK, Ireland, and parts of Europe with our message that girls do STEM too, as do non-binary folk. And so we work with children as young as 5 all the way up to 25 to show them the creativity, the altruism, and the options really that they have across STEM. Our ethos is that everything is free to attend, it's always fun, and you get food. And I know this is something that our panelists that are joining me today are very much familiar with and are excited because I also sent them sweets as part of this panel because that's the STEMette way. So we've got about half an hour to talk through a little bit about the STEMette's experience for the panelists that we've gathered today. We've got 2 alumni who are now working in industry, and we've got one of our volunteers who's actually been a mentor on our programs. And so we want to keep this session as interactive as possible. We can see in swap card that way that we've got questions and polls, and a chat as well. So if there's anything that you want to know, anything you want to add to, then definitely pop that in the chat and the questions, and we'll be able to come to you shortly. So that's a little bit about stemettes. A broader, just one more thing to kind of mention is that everything that we do centers on the young people that we work with. We run inspirational content platforms like the Stemette Society, like our social media platforms that many of you can follow us on Twitter or on Instagram or whatever your favorite social media platform is. Once people have kind of been engaged with the inspirational content platforms, we then have impactful events that they can come along and be a part of. So whether these are the events like the ones that we've been running over the half terms, or even the one that we've got coming up on the 21st and 22nd of December, where people get to get hands-on with technology, get to meet role models, get to engage with them, and get to learn about their options. And then up from that, we've got intersectional cohort programs. And these are programs that are longer term, whether it's mentoring programs or STEM clubs, where girls are able to spend a lot more time understanding the different facets of themselves and also how that might plug into a STEM career. And so I'm really excited today to be able to share kind of the fruits of our labour and folks that have been involved over the last 7, almost 8 years. So I'd like to begin by introducing our 2 alumni. So we've got Nene Ofochebe. Nene, do you want to give us a wave?
Hi guys.
And Nene is currently an Azure cloud consultant and developer, and we'll be hearing from her shortly about the programs that she was on and her experiences as a STEMette. And we also have Folashade Shoyoye. I got that right?
Yeah.
Got carried away there. And Folashade is a civil engineer, and you can probably tell that by her garb that she's dressed in. She's actually tuning in from work, but don't worry, don't need to tell on her that she's got it all covered and all okay with them. So thank you very much for joining us, Folashade. And then last but not least, we've got one of our volunteers, Sumya Singh, who is a software engineer at Deutsche Bank. And she didn't come from one of our programs, but has been a fantastic volunteer, not only supporting young women and young people on their STEM journeys, but also helping to raise awareness of the STEMettes and what we do. So I'm going to turn it over to you, panelists. Let's start with Nene. Can you tell us a little bit about your STEMettes experience? So where did you start? How did you hear about us? And what did you end up doing with STEMettes?
Just after I finished college, I really wanted to gain more tech experience and just know what the tech world is like. So I reached out to stemettes and Anne-Marie and asked if they had any internships, and yes, so I did a month's internship with stemettes, and then from there I learned about the mentoring program, and then I joined that, and I still have my mentor from 5 years ago. To this day, so we're still actively in that sort of relationship. Yeah, so that's sort of my journey. I went to a lot of like hackathons and other events that stemettes had as well.
Brilliant. And 5 years is a really long time. So you're one of the kind of original set of stemettes. And I think it's cool to hear as well that you had lots of different things to kind of bounce about and try and engage with that kind of have led you definitely into the career you're in today. Folashade, what was your stemettes journey? How did you get involved with us?
Hello, everyone. So mine's an interesting one, actually. I went to a family barbecue and I met Anna Marie's dad, then her younger sister, and he spoke to me all about stemettes, and I thought it was an amazing program to be part of because who doesn't want more female, like-minded females who are also working in STEM? So I decided to sign up to the stemettes program, the Student to stemettes, and I was assigned a mentee. And ever since then, I've just volunteered with stemettes and just encouraged other young women like myself to go into mentoring programs because I could see the benefit of it. I've gained so much from joining it.
And you were a mentee, and have you started mentoring yet?
Yes, so now I'm a mentor for the current cohort, and it's been going well so far.
Awesome. And I think you've learnt from the best. You've learnt from your mentor, and now you're passing it forward. So it's brilliant to hear that as well. And for us, that's something that's really important. Like you said, who wouldn't want to have more, young women joining in? And so, you've benefited from being a part of it, and now you're able to give back. Now, Sumya, your journey's slightly different. How did you hear about stemettes, and why did you decide to get involved as a volunteer?
So I actually heard about stemettes when I was still at university. So I went to Durham, and I think you're on the advisory board of the computer science department, right? So yeah, I did hear about stemettes from Dr. Sue Black and all the other people there at uni. And this definitely fascinated me. And I think by the time I was in my final year, and once I was sorted with all my job hunt and things like that, I found myself that I really enjoyed, kind of guiding people through this whole job application process or sharing my experiences. More so because I came from an underrepresented group, like not just in terms of gender, but also ethnicity and stuff like that. So I think I was the only non-UK, I could say I was the only international female student in my department at the time. And I definitely understood the importance of representation. And as the diversity increased in the future cohorts, and they also sort of voiced the need for having more role models. So I used to informally involve myself in all these things. And then I joined Deutsche Bank right after I graduated. And I saw, okay, so you have a tie-up with a company, and they had this volunteering program where you can become a formal mentor to students. So I thought, yes, let me just give it a try. I actually have a chance to use my skills and for a cause that I really care about in a much more formal way. So yes, that's where my journey as a mentor started.
Yeah, and it's great to have you actually, Sumya, because you, as you mentioned, you signed up via Deutsche Bank, and they're an example of one of the company partners that we have. So Deutsche Bank have actually supported us from the very beginning on the mentoring program, almost back when Nene started. And so it's been exciting actually to kind of build that relationship. And as Georgina's posted in the chat, there's lots of opportunities for companies to get involved. And it's a great volunteering experience. I think, it's definitely something for you to grow your network because you're kind of in with the other mentors. It's definitely inspiring. I think that's one thing that the mentors always say. They kind of feel inspired by the young people. And then the other thing that's been interesting is people want to stay in their jobs for longer, having helped others in. I don't know what it is, the kind of stemettes effect maybe, or the volunteering effect of higher satisfaction. So there we go. So those are 3 panelists, and that's how they got involved with stemettes. I wanted to dig down a little bit more with each of you into why STEM has been for you. Why is tech something for you? And each of you has ended up now, or the 2 of you, sorry, have ended up in industry. What role did having an organization or community like stemettes play in you exploring your options? I'm sure both of you knew that you wanted to go into STEM before you started, or maybe you were considering it, so maybe mention that. But how did getting to meet these role models, having these mentors, how has that helped you on one of your on your journey? So
yeah, so I think because I started on an internship, my goal was mainly to know if I actually wanted to do it, and if it was something I wanted to do at university. And I think joining stemettes really gave me a chance to see tech from the inside out, rather than just hearing teachers describe it and say what you could do theoretically. And then when I went further to get a mentor, I had that personal connection where they could literally tell me what they do on a day-to-day basis, what other people in the department do, and so on. And then when it came to post-grad, like applying for roles and things like that, that level of insight was invaluable, just because I don't know anyone who's in the industry I would never have learned certain things if I didn't have a mentor. And then particularly in my case with my mentor, it stretched outside of just academics and work. It was more so as a holistic thing now, because obviously as I grew up, the dynamic of the relationship changed. I wasn't like the 18-year-old anymore. So it was more like, okay, how are you going to structure this and that going forward in your life as a whole? So that's what I really appreciate.
Brilliant. And I think it's cool there as well to remember for anyone that's listening in that, yeah, a lot of young people don't know someone in STEM. They don't necessarily have that background because it is so new. And I guess this is how we've ended up with the underrepresentation. So it is nice to be that into industry. And that's definitely something we value from our volunteers, kind of opening up their black book and opening up their network as well to our young people. Folashade, how did your mentor and your experience at stemettes shape the role that you're in now?
So prior to joining stemettes, I wasn't exposed to much female representation in the STEM industry at all. So during the matching event, it was quite nice to see a lot of different women speak about their experience and just in general how they've worked their way to be where they are. And I actually did meet another mentor who was a civil engineer like myself and sort of moved into technology now. So she works for Deutsche Bank. And it just got me thinking, how does what I'm currently doing now, civil engineering, relate to technology? Because obviously without technology and the advancement, we can't do a lot of the things we're doing. I'm working on a water project right now with a TBM and I've seen so much. So I think stemettes has sort of helped me understand that all the different STEM industries work together. So science, technology, engineering, we're sort of like one big war cogs in a wheel sort of thing. So I appreciate the other parts of STEM as much as engineering now. So I think that's one thing stemettes has taught me.
And that's brilliant, because that's the kind of heart of innovation. Like you said, you're working as a civil engineer and engineering has been your path, but having that appreciation for technology has meant that actually, you can be a better engineer, I guess, or bring more to your engineering.
Yeah.
So there's a great question here from Dion that I'm going to put to you, Sumya. So Dion has asked, can you sign up to be a mentor if you've never mentored before?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I had never been a formal mentor before this. And I think the only requirement is that you're supposed to be working in the industry, right? And Mary, correct me if I'm wrong. So yes, and mentoring is also a skill that you will eventually build by doing, like pretty much any other skill. So don't be afraid of it. I mean, yeah, just go for it. What else can I say?
And I should add that, what Sumya said is correct. You either need to be working in industry or have some sort of STEM background. And we do training for our mentors. So they all get trained, they all get DBS checked, and there's a lot of support throughout the program, kind of almost as much as the support that the girls and the young people get on the program. You also get that kind of support as a mentor. And Jonathan has asked the question here, do we have any male mentors? So on the mentoring program, none of the long-term relationships are male mentors. But we do have male volunteers who come and help with interview practice, with CV reviews, and with lots of the other kind of skills. So we do definitely take on male volunteers. You're definitely welcome. You're part of solving the problem. So do sign up, do get involved. And with the mentoring program, kind of we do that periodically. I think it's every other month. Actually, we do CV reviews and we do interview practice for the young people. So you can definitely get involved as a male mentor there. A shout out to Hayley from CDW. CDW, a brilliant partner of stemettes. She's commented there as well. So thank you very much to Hayley and the team at CDW, who've always been fantastic. And then there's another question here from Lydia that I'm going to answer before I go back to the panel. So Lydia's asked, what are practical ways that businesses can support and get involved with stemettes? So for us at the moment, there's kind of there were three ways before the pandemic, and they've kind of reduced to two at the moment, with kind of a third-ish one. So the most practical way really is to partner up with us and support us. We run a lot of programs across a lot of locales for a lot of different age groups. And so actually being there as a partner that can help fund some of these programs, pay for the postage, pay for the staff, pay for the DBS training, it costs a lot of money to be able to run these programs, or it costs money, maybe not a lot. So that's one really big practical way to support. I think the second way for businesses to support is to kind of spread the word of what we're doing and also volunteer and be a part of what's going on. So whether that's being judges at hackathons, whether that's being role models and supervisors, are virtual ones that we're doing at the moment. So that's the second one, is kind of time. And then the last one was space. Having spaces to host these events was also brilliant, and kind of we tied them together. But of course, there's a pandemic happening at the moment. So less than space, it's actually tech. There's a really big digital and data divide that we have here in the UK. And some of the young people we work with are what we'd call device or data poor. And so that means that they don't have the laptops, they don't have the data at home, they don't have a lot of the things that they need to engage with virtual programs. So at the moment, if there's any partners who are able to give us laptops or give dongles or any kind of practical support and technical support there with getting girls and getting non-binary young people involved with what's going on, then that would be really, really, really appreciated. And I know you definitely had the option to kind of donate as part of this as well. So always looking for folks to donate and be a part of what's going on. Brilliant. So my panelists, I'm going to come back to you now. In this session, we promised we'd talk a little bit more about kind of what are the challenges that you face as young people interested in going into STEM and going into technology. So are you able to talk through maybe some of the challenges that you've had on your journey so far? And I guess with those challenges, you know, we've got lots of people from across industry here. What are the solutions, or what do you want your manager, or what do you want your senior people in your organization to know about your journey so it can be better for the stemettes that are coming behind you? Let's go back to Nene.
Yeah, sure. I think one major issue I had, particularly when I was I guess I'm still starting, but when I was starting my journey, was knowing exactly what everybody did. I think people talk very generally about roles, which was very confusing unless you did have like a mentor or someone who worked in industry. So the difference between a product manager and a project manager, difference between a software engineer and I don't know, like any other role, for example, it's a bit confusing. And I think for me, that was a big thing, because people would ask you, what do you want to do next? And you said, oh, I want to work in tech, but it's not really a role. And then I think the second thing that was quite difficult is sometimes just bridging that jump from university to working. I think sometimes, especially universities, don't prepare you as well for the difference that it is, because it is a big change in your lifestyle, in your working style as well. So that's personally things that I found pretty difficult myself.
I think, yeah, definitely that transition is made easier by having a mentor, but actually it could be made easier kind of in the way that the companies run, in the way that they're organized. Thank you for that, Nene. Folashade, what have been some of your challenges, and kind of what do you want leaders to learn from your challenges?
Yeah, I'd say my biggest challenge was learning to understand it's all baby steps. A baby isn't born walking, so learning to ask questions and having the leaders also understand that at one point they were also in the same position, and they should sort of put themselves in our shoes. So if we ask a question, it's because we're trying to understand a little bit more. So they need to sort of take it easy and take the time. So I think the most important thing is having the time to explain things. So that definitely helps a lot of people develop, having people give them that time.
Yeah, I think you're right. That time that you can invest, I think it's definitely kind of nice to think that people are able to invest time in stemettes as volunteers. But I think it's the same with people, and particularly with young women that are coming through into organisations, and young binary people, taking that time to answer questions, and also to make them allow them to know that they belong, which I think is the other thing. I've been having lots of discussions with people as part of Black Lives Matter, actually, and the tech industry, about the fact that, you know, it's not just about diversity and inclusion, but it's about belonging. How do people know that they belong in your organization? And that's when they're able to do well, and that's when they're able to flourish. So thank you very much. It's really important thing to learn. Sumya, what have been some of the challenges that you face? You know, I think you've just finished the Deutsche Bank grad scheme, so you're kind of newish in your career as well. What are some of the challenges that you face that you wish, you know, people across the industry, not just Deutsche Bank, I guess, could know and could work at ensuring that, you know, you can flourish too?
So interestingly, I mean, I think I've been really lucky with my first employer, because I haven't faced any major challenges ever since I started work. But I would like to say that there were actually a bunch of things that really got me thinking while I was studying at university. So first of all, I was already new to the country, and and there were not many people from the same country as me, etc. All of that, and I realized over time that the one thing I really struggled with was that I felt like I needed to fit in a certain mold or have a very specific kind of hobbies or skill sets in order to feel like that I'm an accomplished, say, technologist or something like that. For instance, let's say I was in my second year, so we have a bunch of 19 to 20-year-olds, and all I would see basically a bunch of guys in hoodies, and all they would do is sit and code all day. And I thought like, okay, outside my lectures and assignments and projects, etc., I felt like in order to be a good technologist, I needed to be working on 2 side projects alongside that. And essentially, I should be eating code and breathing code and sleeping code and things like that. And I know it sounds silly now, but then if that's the only representation of a technologist that you see, and more so, I think it's propagated by the media as well, it can really make you feel out of place. And I do remember now, I'm sort of a person who has a bunch of many different hobbies. Now I'm interested in languages, I like sports and things like that. But then I wouldn't see many people getting involved in those sorts of things. And even their idea of socializing would be beer, pizza, and code. And and there would be times when I felt like I'm forcing myself just to fit in. And I want to have like a life outside, my main technology job as well. And also then other things, for example, when we start job hunting, there is a very odd perception amongst youngsters is that, oh, you are a good software engineer only if you land a job with one of the typical big tech companies, which is totally not true. And of course, it comes from a cluelessness as well about what goes on in the industry. Now, I work with an investment bank, and technology is like an indispensable part of the business. But when I speak to students even now, or when I myself was applying to jobs, I would say I didn't really know like how technology fit in a bank. What am I really going to do? So I think this was stemming from a lack of representation and a lack of role models, most importantly. So I think one of the things which companies and universities can do is get students in touch with more people who are actually working in the industry. And once I went out and did my internships and spoke with people actually from the industry, I realized that this is totally not the case.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's definitely that, you need to give people the opportunity to almost try before they buy. And so you're not then just relying on kind of Hollywood and kind of TV and media perceptions. And the kind of, like you said, the stereotype of being in a hoodie, we're a panel of women in tech. None of us are wearing hoodies here at all. So, we're definitely still employed and paying our rent as real people in the industry who don't necessarily socialize just with beer and pizza. And I know Georgina popped this in the chat earlier, but anyone that's listening in as well, work experience, work placements is definitely something that's really, really valuable. If anyone is able to offer them, even virtually now, you're still working. And so young people, this is going to be part of how we work going forward. So, definitely open your virtual offices if you can to young people for them to be able to come in and see it. And we at stemettes would love to be able to host and work with you on work experience weeks or on longer internships for young people that want to come in and want to kind of explore what it is. And I'm going to take it back to you, Folashade. So you're sat there as the civil engineer, kind of looking, I guess, in some ways the stereotype because you're wearing the high vis.
Yes.
Yeah, but there's no white hat. I want to know from you, as someone that's working as a civil engineer now, what is your favorite part of the job? Why is it something that you enjoy doing? Why is it something that you knew you wanted to do? And how does that play out in your day-to-day experience in your career? Just for anyone that's listening in that wants to kind of, understand maybe some of the motivations, some of the drivers for different people coming in and being a civil engineer.
So growing up, initially I wasn't going to be a civil engineer. I was going to become a doctor because I knew I wanted to help people. And then looking back at the things I actually enjoyed doing in classes, it was maths, it was design, and it was art. So I realized maybe I could still help people and still continue with the subjects I enjoyed. So civil engineer was sort of like the right one. So if you look at everything around the world right now, the roads you drive on, when you open the tap, it's all civil engineering. So that's how I sort of stumbled into it. And right now, my day-to-day, so I'm working on site. I'm working on the Thames Tideway project. So it's cleaning up the River Thames for London. And it's exciting. So we go out on site, we sign the permits, the risk assessments, and that's it really. But I still know what I'm doing right now is helping out people, because once you've cleaned up the River Thames, we're sort of building up the resistance for the future. So it's great.
I think it's great. It's good to know as well that you've got that kind of altruistic end. You know, you want to help people. Doctors was one thing, but actually there's lots of different ways to do that. And Anita was commented here and said it's refreshing to hear Sumia and all of the speakers challenging the stereotypes of tech. So thank you very much, folks. You're being our role models for the day. These things all work both ways. Nene, you are working with Azure. You're a developer. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about why you enjoy doing what you do in the cloud?
Yeah, I think firstly it's because I had never done it before, so it was a huge learning curve, and it's just really interesting to learn all these new things. And for me, I always wanted to do something which I felt had longevity. So cloud is here and it's here to stay. So I thought the sooner I built a specialism for myself, it would be good, and it's something I really enjoy. For example, I've been writing a script for something, and I was so engrossed in it. I literally woke up on Saturday just thinking about why it wasn't working and I had to fix it. So I think it's that level of being engrossed in your work, which I really, really enjoy. Not a pressure, but a genuine passion for it. So yeah, that's what I like most about it.
That's what we love to hear. Having a passion for your job, loving to learn as well, which is definitely going to stand you in good stead. And you're right, the cloud is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Our partners at CDW will definitely agree with that as well. So thank you very much to the panel. So I just wanted to close by thanking each of you for sharing and being a part of the stemettes community and the stemettes family. Sumi as a volunteer and Nene and Folashade as alumni. I've already sent them a little thank you gift as well. So they've all got sweets and different things and badges that they've got because we love free stuff at the stemettes. I just wanted to close in our last minute and plug a couple of things that we've got going on with the stemettes at the moment. So I've opened it up for Whitfest, so we've extended our Black Friday sale a little bit longer. So if any of you want a stemettes face mask, which is that, or a mug or some teas or a tote, then head over to our website and you can support us in that way and also stay safe. You've got to stay safe in these streets. But also, if any of you would like to know more about what's going on, we host a showcase a couple of times a year. So if you head over to our website or search Stemettes Showcase, our next one is happening on the 11th of February, but you can sign up to our mailing list on the link I popped in the chat to be able to kind of hear from a couple more Stemettes and understand more about what happens for us and what's happening for us kind of in the first 4 months of next year. Also, you know, we've got our charity Stemette Futures. So if any of you have any kind of gift aid or giving platforms at work, we're charity 1188774, and I'll pop that in the chat. So you can definitely get us signed up and start making contributions to what's going on and helping fund our work, especially during this pandemic where, you know, there's a lot of technology, lots of young people who are needing that, who are needing the support. And now it's kind of seeping into mental health and all kinds of support that we know lots of young people are needing. And if you're a man, I think my final thing, because there was a question about this earlier, if you're a man that's wanting to support, don't feel like you can't, because we are working with young women and non-binary young people. So you can always, you know, run your own fundraiser. You can always advocate internally. You can always publicize and retweet what we've got going on and sharing more of these stories of female role models and of our alumni. You can host work experience, you can have shadowing, you can host an internship. And these are kind of gender neutral things that you can do. So thank you very much to the Women in Tech Festival for having us as their charity of the year. Thank you very much to all of you for listening and tuning in. And I think that the final thing that I'd like to say is, you know, when I started Stemettes, I don't want this to run forever. I think we're definitely trying to solve a problem and solve it and just be done with it. So I think that the biggest way that you could definitely support is to respect the women around you, respect the women that work for you, hire them, promote them, give them positions of responsibility, ensure that we have the right representation across our industry. So thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the conference.